What's up, guys? It's Dan. I promised you I'd send you some more War Thunder videos that are centered around newer players, and this is one of the most common questions I think I asked when I was a newer player, and I was really kind of confused and found it fairly complicated and complex. So we're going to talk today about the ammo types and the different type of belts and the ammunition, how they differ, and kind of where you want to focus and what you want to use. So to kind of start overall talking about it, there's an ammunition belt, and then there's the ammunition that's inside of the belt. So you have belts and then the ammo itself. So in looking at this from a new player perspective, typically what you want to find are the rounds that will put the most fire on a target, or will have high explosive capabilities to be able to do the most damage. Now what's confusing as a newer player is each plane has different belts. Not each plane, but really each plane has different belts. But sometimes you'll have like 4 or 5 different variations of a P-51, and they can vary what they carry. So make sure you kind of look at that specifically as you're asking that question. But to look at it, there's 6 different types. So the 4 main types that you're going to be concerned with are going to be the air round, which is probably the best for air targets, obviously. Tracers, which can help you see as you're aiming, especially in realistic battles, but primarily we're focusing on arcade. So it's not that big of a benefit there, but it does help newer players typically get their bearings with where they need to aim. Ground, which is good at taking out armored targets. Depending on the plane, it could be extremely well armored, or for taking out ground targets that have armor on them. And then stealth, which allows you to really not be seen when you're taking your shots until the plane typically takes damage. So those are the 4 main types. They also have, like night belts. There's a few others, but these are the 4 that you really want to be concerned with. So in looking at this, there's a couple exceptions on when you want to upgrade your belts. Typically, your belts are being upgraded as one of the last things. However, on certain planes, such as this bow fighter, you'll see that as you look at the belt, they have a practice shell in it. Those are really terrible, and you should probably prioritize to get rid of those because they're so bad. They're really, really bad at taking out soft targets and damaging crew and things like that. So that can be really, really bad. So you probably want to upgrade those quicker in those planes. And really the next thing to move on to the explanation of how you want to know what ammo to use is there's kind of a formula is the best way to put it. And what you're looking for are the best ratio of high explosive and or incendiary rounds to ball, AP, or sometimes tracer. Sometimes tracer can be good too. But for example, let's look at this air target ammunition that's in the P-51 here. So like I said before, typically if you're going to be doing dogfighting, you want to shoot down planes, the air ammunition belt is what you want to use. And as you see there, it has high explosive, fragmentation incendiary, and then high explosive fragmentation semi-armor piercing incendiary shells. That's a really good ammo belt. Now as you look at some of these other ones, like for example, see how where this one here the ratio isn't as good because there's an armor piercing shell in it. So as you look at it, it looks like there's basically 3 armor piercing rounds to 1 AP shell. So that's your ratio. So whereas this is 100% HE or incendiary, this one here would be maybe 75% or even 66%, depending on how that formula breaks down. But really what you want to look for is how much high explosive and incendiary is there and what the percentage of those rounds are versus your tracer shells, armor piercing shells that aren't going to do as much. Each belt's different. Like in this one here, they have the practice shell, so we'd want to get rid of that as soon as possible. Like on this shell here, you look at it, it would only be 50% with the HEF having the first 2 spots, then a practice shell, then a tracer shell. That's not very good. You'd want to upgrade that pretty quickly. Here it's even worse on the ground target round. Now, mind you, if you are hitting targets that have armor, it wouldn't be a bad thing to take ground targets. And in certain planes, the ground belt is the best belt on the plane. Like I said, it's just specific. So you really want to look at what the ratio is for those specific rounds in order to answer your question. So you'd have to go through each plane and kind of look at it. There isn't generally stealth is always best. Air is always best. Ground is always best. You know, universal or tracers are always best. I think that's the answer that typically people are looking for. So it makes it a little more complex. You just have to take some time, look at it to see what, you know, what has the highest percentage of incendiary or high explosive, and that's what you're looking for. So hopefully that answers your question. It and it should hopefully give you a little bit of clarity if you're a newer player. There's always exceptions to this. There's certain planes and certain ones where you'll say, no, it would be better for AP in this plane, depending on the muzzle velocity, the caliber. But this is just generally speaking some advice to help some newer players. So hopefully that helped you. If you have some more advice, throw them in the comments below. Thanks for watching, guys.